10 minutes past 8 o'clock. It's Thursday morning, March the 11th, 2021. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin, and thank you for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM over the air here in San Juan County, New Mexico, 103.3 FM on the air in Durango, Colorado, and streaming everywhere on the planet from our website at ksje.com. Welcome also to our viewers who are watching this visual radio program, thanks to our community support. The video is streaming live this morning to the KSJE YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and our Twitter account. So we're glad that you are with us, everybody. Coming up in the next few moments, our focus today is on economic development. I'll be joined by Arvin Trujillo, the CEO of Four Corners Economic Development, of course. Also, Nancy Shepard, who is working with ForeSaid, will also be joining us this morning. So we hope you'll stay tuned for that important conversation about businesses in San Juan County and economic development efforts coming up this morning. Then next hour, I invite you to switch over to our social media pages for our live streaming program at 9 a.m., our COVID-19 Community Information Program. Megan Cullip will be joining me here in Studio A, and we'll be talking to some local pharmacists about their role in getting out the new COVID vaccines to our community. Also, we'll be talking about mental health as well on the program with our guest from Presbyterian Medical Services, and Mike Mestis will be joining us once again this week. He, of course, is the San Juan County Emergency Manager who is helping to coordinate all these things. So that's what's coming up, in addition to talking about, of course, San Juan County's green status as of yesterday and what that means for local businesses. So again, we hope you'll join us. It is streaming live this morning at 9 a.m. on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And you can always hear it on the radio at 5:06 this afternoon on KSJE. If you want to catch it earlier than that, our partner public radio station, non-commercial radio station KNMI, airs the program at noon on Thursdays. On the radio at 9 this morning, Mick Hess is going to be playing some music from Mozart on Roving with the Arts. So that is what's coming up this morning on the radio at 9. Don't forget, of course, in addition to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, we invite you to connect with us on our Instagram page as well. Outside our studios this morning, it is 31 degrees in Farmington with some winds around 9 miles per hour. So it feels like 25 this morning, but it's mostly sunny outside right now. We are expecting increasing clouds today with a chance of maybe some rain or snow showers developing. The high today, 55 in Farmington, partly cloudy tonight with a low of 29. More chances for rain and snow showers on Friday with a high of 54 degrees tomorrow. 31 Friday night. More chances for rain or snow showers on Saturday with a high of 41 and a low of 30 degrees, and maybe even some more showers on Sunday with a high of 49 degrees and an overnight low of 31 as those winds kick up. So let me introduce my guests who are joining us this morning, and we are going back to our reliable Zoom technology. So I'm going to need to change a couple of things on my computer real quick to see them, but we'll be able to hear them perfectly fine. Arvin Trujillo, the CEO of Four Corners Economic Development, is on the program this morning. And Arvin, good morning.
Good morning, Scott.
We can hear you. Very good. Good to see you, and great to have you on. And let me just do a couple more little things here. And hang on, everybody. And then Nancy Shepard is also joining us as well this morning. And Nancy, good morning to you. It's great to see you.
Good morning, Scott. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
You bet. It's great to have you all on the program. And so welcome, everybody. And so let me turn to Arvin Trujillo to get started this morning. And Arvin, talk to me a little bit about your efforts. I know you're still working with local businesses, and that's kind of the focus of the program this morning, to kind of find out how they're doing, what they're thinking, and some of those things, correct?
That's right. So, Scott, we're in the process of moving forward with our business retention and expansion project. As I've indicated earlier before in past discussions, we were fortunate to be able to interview 100 businesses, and they ranged from one-person businesses up to businesses that had up to 1,200 employees. So we had a whole variety of businesses that we interviewed. We interviewed businesses throughout San Juan County. And again, the goal here was to really begin to determine what is happening out there currently and what areas should we be focusing our efforts on as an economic development organization. What type of assistance or what type of resources or training or support do our small businesses need? And so we've embarked on a process that's been utilized quite successfully within the state of Minnesota. And in fact, we are working with the University of Minnesota to move this effort forward.
Very good. And that 100 businesses that you mentioned, Arvin Trujillo, those were located really all over the county, right? Wasn't that the idea, to try to really spread out and find out what's going on in every nook and cranny, if you will, of the county?
Yes, we were all over the county. We we interviewed businesses, of course, here in Farmington, but also in Aztec and Bloomfield, Flora Vista, Kirtland, Shiprock, Waterflow. We wish we would have gotten more from some of the regional areas here, but you know, the ones that we did get brought a lot of insight. We hope to build on our efforts here, and so again, we were very deliberate in terms of really trying to look at the full full county here, and even the Navajo Nation. We had businesses in Shiprock that we were able to interview. So again, we're looking at the county and seeing what we can ascertain from the information that we've gotten, and we're in the processes right now of really understanding what that data is telling us.
Right. Let me turn to Nancy Shepard. And Nancy Shepard, could you tell us your involvement with this project? I imagine you helped it along quite a bit.
Well, I've enjoyed doing it. It's I'm consulting with Four Corners Economic Development. I've done that for a couple of years now and really enjoy the work. And this is something that I've kind of been heavily involved in. As Arvin says, 100 businesses. We started this summer by taking a course from University of Minnesota. There were 5 of us that took the course, and we learned a lot about the process. It is a process that's done all across Minnesota. They have extremely active economic development efforts there in many rural areas, and so we saw the comparison. Even though it's not, obviously New Mexico is not Minnesota, a lot of similarities there. So yeah, I love this because the main purpose is to ask the businesses about what they need to improve their business's position and the economy of the county in general. So we got lots of, the stack of paper, I don't know, your listeners can't see this, but the stack of paper is this high and quite heavy in what we gathered information. And obviously it's digitized too, but our interviews were excellent. So we have lots of information.
Right. And you were, these interviews would go for maybe, an hour maybe at a time with these 100 businesses or so, with all the questions you wanted to ask them?
Yep. If somebody was really on top of it, we sent out the questionnaire ahead of time. Somebody was really on top of it. The shortest one I think I had was about 30 minutes, and they were really prepared. And we basically, got the data from them, but then spent some time with them talking about other perceptions. We did have a couple that lasted a couple of hours. I think Arvin had one that lasted 3 hours. So, but generally, most of them were at about an hour and 15 minutes that we talked with people. And I'll tell you, the response was pretty fantastic because people, I think, really appreciated us asking them questions. Sometimes we do things and we think we know what businesses need, and that's great. But sometimes we need to ask them what they think they need, and so that's what this was.
Sure. And for a lot of folks who do surveys and things like that, it's a pretty scientific job, I would say, to be able to do this, to get the right kind of data so you can compare kind of apples to apples and not apples to oranges and those types of things. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does.
Sure. Yeah. And I might mention that all the information is confidential. So we, when the information comes back to us in a report, it's not, business XYZ said this. It's in averages and percentages, data analysis, asking a question like, how important is the local business environment to you? Asking that question, and then asking the question, and how would you rate our local environment? So when you have those two elements, you can compare and see how important and how they rate it. You can make those comparisons. So there is a decent amount of analysis. A lot of it is anecdotal. Some of the questions were open-ended. How can FORSED, Four Corners Economic Development, what's your opinion, Mr. Businessman, Miss Businesswoman, about what Four Corners Economic Development can do for you and for the county? So it's a lot of work, a lot of effort.
Sure, indeed. And but one of the things that I know you heard from some of your businesses was, and they weren't necessarily very guarded in maybe some of their answers, maybe because they know it's going to be confidential, they can really tell you how they feel, even the good, bad, and the ugly, I suppose. And that maybe is good to hear, Nancy Shepard?
It is good to hear. I think people were very honest and very forthright. They had the opportunity just to say, I don't want to answer, I really don't want to answer that question. And we called it the skip it rule. And so they didn't have to answer it if they didn't want to. But I was just amazed at what people told us. I mean, people told us they were retiring. People told us they were selling. People told us they were buying. One of the things that was most, I think, overall to me, having looked at all of the data several times, was that so many people are taking advantage of the situation, if that sounds even reasonable in the land of COVID, but taking advantage and the entrepreneurial spirit that these people around here have is pretty amazing. Looking to buy other businesses, looking to expand physically, to buy another building, looking at other opportunities, very much different from what type of industry they're in at the moment. So that was very heartening to us to see that even in the midst of a lot of adversity, that people are still doing things and good things.
Right. Well, and I think we see that even throughout history in times of adversity. If a business person is kind of on the ball or looking at the future, they are seeing those times of adversity as times of opportunity, and that's exactly what you described, Nancy Shepard.
Mm-hmm. Definitely so. So that's very encouraging to us, and the other thing is, I think people so much appreciated. One large industry here in town said, "What could we asked him what could FORSED be doing?" And he said, doing what you're doing, ask the businesses what it is that they need. And it's so varying. I mean, you get all kinds of answers. You get one extreme answer from one person, and on the other extreme, you get another answer for the same question. So, and then lots of stuff in between. So
sure,
you get a lot of variety of answers, but you can see the trends that will come out of it, and you will see what it is that generally people are saying, and what it is that we, FORSED, need to pay attention to.
Right, and that's very important. Arvin Trujillo, let me turn back to you a little bit about the types of businesses that were asked these questions. It seems like it really ran the gamut, as Nancy Shepard was saying, a major employer, maybe down to a sole proprietor, maybe a mom-and-pop type organization as well. It's important to hear from everybody, right?
Yes, it is. And again, as I indicated, the businesses that we interviewed range anywhere from one employee up to 1,200 employees. And again, we're looking at businesses that were in the arts and the food service industry, mining, oil and gas, agriculture, environmental, retail, accounting, fitness, financing, cleaning services, drugstores, car dealerships, construction companies, beauty salons, real estate operations, daycares, lawyers, exercise gyms. You can see the whole gamut that we went after, looking at different businesses here in the county. And the thing that somewhat took me by surprise was exactly the variety of businesses that we do have, the size. And the big thing about it is, to reiterate what Nancy indicated, there are a lot of people who are really continuing to look at the upside. They understand the challenges. They see what is happening. They recognize that, yes, we are in a different environment as far as business and business development is concerned, but you still have a lot of people out there who have a very optimistic view as to what they can do looking into the future. How do we build our business? What do we need to do? What resources are available? So we were able to get a lot of information in those areas. And, it was somewhat of a surprise to me as I began to go through this process. And as Nancy indicated, sometimes we've had to really push the interviews in order to keep them within a reasonable time limit. By that, I mean, I had businesses who were just opening up on everything. And Nancy talked about one that I had a 3-hour interview with. That was a tremendous interview because they had so much to share. And it was like, no one has come to us and asked us about these things. And they were very forthright in giving their opinions and what they thought and what their recommendations would be, and et cetera. And so again, a lot of people out there were really forthright in terms of not only being honest with us, but also providing us with a tremendous amount of information. That was really refreshing to me.
Right. Well, and as Nancy Shepard's mentioned, I imagine a lot of these folks were just grateful to be asked their opinion and to find out what was going on and what you were putting together. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, what's the next steps? You've got this stack of digital data, as Nancy showed us, the size of her head, lots of data. And so this is going back to University of Minnesota to kind of compile this into a report. Is that the next step?
Let me turn it over to Nancy and let her give you the chronology that we're looking at right now, what we expect coming down the road. And again, we're going to be looking for businesses to continue to partner with us as we move through this process. Nancy?
All right.
Thanks, Arvin. So, Scott, what we did the interviews mostly, almost all, October through December. And so that was that timeline. In January, there was some vetting of the data just to make sure that it was very clear. A lot of this, we're sending it to Minnesota, who doesn't really know some of our terms and our terminology and our acronyms. So a decent amount of time in January kind of cleaning up things so that it was easily put into the database. So then on March 4th, we had a research review meeting, and at that meeting it was really interesting. We had about 30 people, 28 people, I think, of us. We kind of overwhelmed the University of Minnesota. It was a Zoom meeting, and they were just amazed at how many people were interested in what was going on. But at that meeting, we had received back a report, and the report gave us just a data dump. It was just basically the data that came off of and out of the interviews. And so we looked at that beforehand. People came to the meeting prepared. We broke into groups, and we did things to propose possible projects that were, had voted to the top that needed to be. So I think we have at the moment something like 61 potential projects that have been suggested. Now, some of those are not really fleshed out. Some of them are probably have a lot of information and ideas on them. So those projects are coming to the top. Now, starting Monday, University of Minnesota is working on an actual report that will come back to us in early April. And in early April, we will have a retreat, and we'll take that report and we'll look at the different types of suggestions that they have. They make suggestions, recommendations. They do not really tell us we have to do anything. They just tell us what they saw from what they get. So that's early April. And then probably early May, we start, early April, we have a retreat, and we decide probably top 3 or 4 projects that Forsed wants to move forward with. Not that the other projects go by the wayside by any means. We try to find a home, a champion, somebody else that might be willing to work on other projects, or they might be something that we try to help with at a little later date. But for the coming year, probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 projects
Gotcha.
that we might be working on.
Understood. And so it sounds like you might have to prioritize some of these projects. So as you said, not putting them back on the shelf, but you've got to prioritize your resources and your efforts.
Right. Yeah, we can not possibly do 61 projects. So
Right.
yeah, definitely prioritize them, and that's what the retreat is about. And out of that priorities come the projects that we will choose. And then in May we'll actually have probably a rollout and invite the community to be involved in those projects, so that it's not just force ed, which is what we're pretty good at doing. I think we've gotten a lot of involvement from our community in the last year's time. I might mention that the people who interviewed were Arvin and myself, and a couple of other people who did some of the major numbers of interviews. We also had a total of 28 ambassadors, we called them, that did the interviews. And I'll tell you that was another technique that I think was extremely important to have. People who were trained, they had a little training, but to go out and to do the interviews. And those people were extremely impressed with what they heard when they talked. So we had a recorder, and we had a question asker, for lack of a better term. And so we, on about half of the interviews, we had 2 people that interviewed, and many of those people were our ambassadors from the community.
Gotcha. Well, and that's a big project, but you have 100 businesses that you're speaking with. And so, Nancy Shepard, can you give us a bit more of an idea of what these projects might look like, might sound like, for our audiences to maybe understand where this goes next?
Sure. So looking like what they might be, I mean, some things are going to float to the top. Obviously, transportation is something that Arvin is already working on a great deal, but airlines, railroad, that's an element that many businesses are affected by. I'm pretty sure that one will come fairly high. Another one we heard a lot about was beautification. A lot of people would really love to work, I think, on that, or have work done on that. And that's a huge project. I mean, that's huge. So it would take a lot of community involvement. But the perception that we could be a lot more better looking. We have some really nice things that have been done, definitely moving in the right direction. Beautiful downtown, all of those things. But how do you take that throughout the county?
Right.
So that visitors can see? Lots of comments on that. So those are the types of things I think that'll come out of this.
Very good. And Arvin Trujillo, again, as Nancy mentioned, when we talk about beautification and some of these other projects, some communities further along than others, but the idea here, since you're taking a look at the entire San Juan County, it's really important to include a lot of these other communities in these conversations, at least to have them understand where things might be moving on a county level, correct?
That's correct. And that's kind of what we're going to be looking at, Scott, as we begin to flesh these projects out and get a good feel for it. We're going to start approaching the community and getting them involved in what we want to try to achieve, looking at the different projects. Because again, the idea here is something that you and I have talked about before, in that economic development isn't one entity, one person, FORSED or the chamber or the county or city governments doing this. It's the whole community coming together, the businesses, the schools, the different people, the business people, the customers out there. All of us have got to come together and really begin to push this idea of economic development. How do we begin to transition ourselves? What are alternatives available? How do we move from an energy-focused economy into a more diversified economy? How do we build that? How do we get the message out? How do we help support new startups that may be coming down? How do we look at new training that would be available? All of this really is all a community aspect, and this needs to even be drilled down to our schools, to where our high schools and our middle schools. are taking up this type of philosophy as our young people are being educated and trained, and again, providing an opportunity for them to come back here to San Juan County to live and to be a productive member of this community. And so again, it's going to take the community to make this change, and so that's what we're looking at as we move forward with this effort.
Right. Well, let me ask either one of you to answer this question. When we hear about some of these things that could be done, that maybe needs to be done to help diversify the economy, attract maybe new businesses, or help existing businesses to expand, that comes down, as always, it seems a lot of these conversations comes down to dollars and cents. So is there a mechanism maybe for funding or to help pay for some of these ideas or projects? Would that be maybe a unified grant application or something like that?
That's what we're looking at, Scott, because right now we've got a process in place where we were able to develop a partnership between Forsyth, San Juan County, and the Navajo Nation to bring $2 million in planning dollars towards the development of a railroad. We're also continuing our efforts because we know the infrastructure bill that that Congress is going to be looking at, that the president has indicated he wants to get passed, has a lot of dollars in there looking at broadband development as well as other infrastructure aspects to that bill. And again, getting ourselves ready for that, getting our plans together, understanding what the community wants and what priorities we should be pushing, and then putting dollars behind that so that we can actively go and advocate for that. We've been in discussions with the Navajo Nation, their Navajo Nation Washington office, looking at that. We've also been active in developing relationships with our congressional delegation, moving forward with this. The president and the vice president of the Navajo Nation have been working with us. And again, this is a new process of partnership. We're hoping this will build throughout the county here, looking at the 4-state region. And again, looking at even within our county, having all our municipalities, including Shiprock and some of the other chapters here in San Juan County, all coming together to work as one. And so these are new things that that people are really looking at, and we're seeing how we can utilize that to really push this idea of economic and community development for San Juan County forward and provide the necessary funding in order to achieve the goals that we set for ourselves.
Understood. Nancy Shepard, again, I guess to you, your dollars and cents, it always sometimes comes down to that, not always, but it's important maybe that these communities with less resources have an opportunity to get some additional help as well to do some of these things you're talking about.
I think people are extremely creative, and I think we can't discount, obviously, dollars and cents are extremely important, but the other piece of that, another resource that you can't underestimate is the human resource. And people have been able to get things accomplished with sometimes not a lot of money. So we need to be sure that we realize that people power is also something that we need to cultivate. And this is a great communities for rolling up your sleeves and digging in and getting things done. So we have faith that will happen, and we're excited to be looking forward to doing some of these projects. Right.
Well, and that in and of itself can be very valuable, that people power, and we're very wealthy in that regard. So I appreciate you saying that. Nancy Shepard, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Arvin Trujillo, thank you very much.
It's good being here, Scott. And again, last I heard you about the green, I'm real happy about us getting into that green tier designation. Those that are listening, I would ask that you continue working those guidelines and being thoughtful of those, because again, I would like to see this community move from the green to the turquoise, to where we even we're able to open up even more and support our small businesses. So again, I just want to congratulate the people of San Juan County in meeting this milestone. I can remember you and I, Scott, looking at this when it first came out, and we were wondering how could we ever reach these milestones, but here we are today at that level. And so again, I just want to express my gratitude and congratulate our community members there.
Good point, and I appreciate you saying that, Arvin Trujillo. And again, part of that people power, I think, when we're all moving in the same direction, we can do a lot of great things together. So thank you both very much. Arvin Trujillo, Nancy Shepard, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Scott.
You're very welcome. My guest this morning here on KSJE. Back with more in just a moment, everyone. The time is 8:40 a.m. KSJE is supported by the University of Denver Graduate School of Social Work Four Corners program. The program is accepting applications for the Advanced Standing MSW program beginning this summer, 2021. Students with a bachelor's degree in social work are eligible for the one-year program. Stipends in child welfare and opioid workforce expansion and Native American tuition support to eligible students are available. Find out more from Janelle.Doughty, Doughty, at du.edu or online at du.